It's not very often that I spend hours filming a PC build guide for the video not to see the light of day. Here on the channel, I'm really passionate about building the best price point builds or systems that are great for specific use cases. And when Intel Core Ultra first landed, I hoped that building this with Intel's Core Ultra 9 would be an awesome, super high power gaming PC build. But of course, we all know what happened there, and that wasn't the case. But I love the way this build looks so much, with its awesome Lian Li Unifans on the bottom, top, side and rear, high-end MSI motherboard, chunky GPU, and Lian Li's O11D, that I thought, can it be saved? Can I turn the PC that you shouldn't build into one that you absolutely should? And today, that's the plan, with AMD's Ryzen 9800X3D, an X870 carbon Wi-Fi motherboard, and a build that, other than the CPU, is just about ready to go and looks stunning in the process. Let's do this. Now, before I go about tearing this build apart with my fancy new LTT screwdriver, not an ad by the way, I bought it on Black Friday to see if the hype is really real, I should probably get you up to speed with what is in this system already and the base we're working with. Now, the whole build is built inside of Lian Li's O11 Vision Compact, a smaller form factor chassis, which I really like. Features a 360mm liquid cooler. It's the MSI i360 with our Lian Li Unifans on the top. Talking of fans, I've gone for the Unifans with screens at the front of the chassis and those without at the top and the bottom. It's rocking Corsair's new RM1000X power supply and an MSI Supreme RTX 4080 Super. Of course, in the new year, I may swap this out for whatever NVIDIA bring. We're obviously expecting 5090 and 5080, and you can see how actually the basis of this build is really solid. We've also fully benchmarked this system. So what I'm going to do once these new bits are in is actually benchmark the whole thing again and show you in the benchmarks later what the difference is between the Core Ultra 9 that's in the build right here, and of course the fastest gaming CPU right now, which is the 9800 X3D. In terms of the motherboard, this has currently got an MSI Z890 Ace, which is pretty much bar the godlike MSI's top-end SKU. I'll be swapping that out for this, which is the carbon Wi-Fi. It's a little lower end, comparatively speaking. However, it's going to get rid of the gold accents and hopefully time with the colour scheme in the build a little bit better. You can see I'm kind of using this as an opportunity to actually improve the build in as many ways as I can, while also changing out the core components which need to be substituted. Unfortunately, a motherboard and CPU change means taking out pretty much the whole system. Might be able to get away with leaving some of the fans pre-installed, the side fans for sure, the rear fans definitely, and maybe even the top fans too. So let me go ahead and begin by unscrewing the graphics card. This is actually my first test of the screwdriver. Is it? Oh, it's quite satisfying. I'm going to be honest, as satisfying as everybody says. It does actually feel quite good. Now, this is a good time to demo the fancy GPU release feature, which with the press of a button, should allow me, theory, pull the graphics card out. I think I actually had already unlocked the GPU and then just relocked it again. And you can see this Supreme card is absolutely gorgeous. 4080 Super really is a bit of a beast, especially at 4K gaming, which is the ideal use for this build. Our new gaming CPU though, in the 9800X3D, it's going to be really strong at 1080p too for that heavy single thread. So excited to test that out as well. I think the next step after that is going to be removing the CPU water block, get that taken out, then unplugging all of the power connectors. Of course, we've got the CPU to take out, motherboard to take out, and then any front panel cables at the bottom too, just to start freeing the whole build up. The hope here is that I can try and leave as much of this build intact as possible. That is only the hope, so there's no guarantee that will actually be the case. And then it should be a pretty easy job of just swapping out one motherboard for the next, nice and easily. One thing to watch out for as well is that sometimes the motherboard screws can be hidden behind the top M.2 slot. So actually take that out on this MSI board. That's going to release the screw. And then of course we can pop the M.2 heat shield or heat sink back into place nice and easily. It's only really when you take a build apart or you're swapping components out that you start to really appreciate the little toolless features, things like the toolless NVMe slots. It's going to make your life a lot easier. Now, what are we missing? I have resigned myself to the fact that I think the easiest course of action with the fans is just to take them out. It's going to free up a bit of clearance at the bottom of the case, and that is something that we're definitely going to want. But the little cable here, the little wireless add-on, that can stay where it is, as that's going to make life later a little bit easier. Now, in theory, with one USB splitter and our auxiliary GPU power out, the board should just pop out. Wi-Fi still in the back, and with a little bit of magic, yes, the board is out. Now then seems like a pretty good opportunity to take a look at this carbon board in a bit more detail. We have actually reviewed it over on GeekaWhat.com, as with most of the parts you'll find in today's build. it's a good substitute for the Ace. I think we've still got our DDR5 RAM DIMM slots on the top here. Our MSI build used QDIMM, so I need to check that on Ryzen. The M.2 heatsink's actually slightly better design. It's much easier to get all of them at once, in my opinion. Of course, that top slot is still its own separate thing up here, which is nice. RGB here and here on the board. 2 8-pin powers, still got useful features like the PCI latch, Q-code displays, auxiliary GPU power. It's all broadly in the same place. So actually, from a point of view of getting this installed, that's going to be nice and easy. Just going to drop in the 9800X3D. This CPU is like super unobtainable at the moment. I will leave latest pricing and availability for it down below. And hopefully by the time you're watching this, availability may have improved at least a little bit. I know some people have been getting them at Micro Center. Here in the UK, Scan had some. People have been getting a bit of luck with Currys. See where your mileage lands, and yeah, good luck. Now, after a bit of checking, it is in fact correct that QDIMM on AMD is currently, well, it's a no-go. You could use it and bypass the timing module, but then there's no point in paying extra for the clock unit on the QDIMM. So instead, I'm gonna go for this. It's a dominated titanium kit, and it still retains the same 48GB capacity of the QDIMM kit I was using before. And this is actually a really, really nice looking set of RAM from Corsair. All black, which I like better than the grey one for me. And that's gonna go in the 2nd and 4th DIMM slots. Also gonna pop in the SSD into the top NVMe. I've opted to go for Samsung's SSD 990 Pro. You could go for something like MSI's Spatium M580. It's a nice drive, but the heatsink's absolutely massive. And as such, I think this 990 Pro will be a better bet. Plus, for gaming performance, the Gen 5 speed upgrade isn't really that important, making this Samsung drive a great fit. Of course, some final prep to do on the motherboard as well. Just got to change over the standoff from the Intel ones that were installed before over to AMD. And the good thing about this cooler is although this bracket is, well, slightly large, it does actually have the Intel and AMD points built in. So this particular scenario is actually a perfect fit for the i360 because all you need to do is change the board over and the cooler should fit no problem. And then with a spot of luck, I should just be able to slide the new motherboard assembly into place, being really careful not to scratch the fans or any of the screens on any of the fans. Get the cables out of the way and line this up over all the standoffs. Again, you may need to take off the top NVMe slot just to access that center screw and make sure, perfect, it is nicely lined up. Cables and stuff as well, pretty easy to pop back into place. This one doesn't need the additional motherboard power cable, so we can get rid of that. It is, however, still going to take our USB 3 front panel header, which goes in the same place, equally as tight. And then I'm going to screw the board back into place. You could probably screw it down before adding all the cables in, but I've decided to make my life more difficult. Always start off with the center standoff and work your way around, getting them all in bit by bit. Then I think the GPU can go back in. Now, is it the same PCI slot? It looks to be, yes, it is. So in theory, this should be pretty simple. Is the slot released? Yes, it is. Therefore, with some gentle encouragement and a return of the locked latch, the power cable is going to go on. And with that, I've hopefully transformed this build from a system that, well, I think you guys would have crucified me for in the comments into a build that provides some slightly better performance. So shall we take a look at that performance? Let's boot it up. So then, let's take a look at the performance. And what I'm really interested in is how much of a performance improvement we're going to see from this new 9800X3D system versus what it originally was, which is the Core Ultra 9. Now, let's start off with Cyberpunk 2077 first of all. In Cyberpunk 2077, at 4K high with DLSS on, frame gen enabled and ray tracing set to medium, so basically everything cranked up, the 9800X3D version 2 of this build pulled in an average of 90 frames per second. This was higher than the 84 frames per second seen on the Core Ultra config, giving us exactly a 6 FPS increase from one system to the next, representing around about 8%. In Alan Wake 2, the two systems were virtually tied with 70 frames per second on average at 4K high, with frame generation on and ray tracing set to medium, versus the 69 frames per second on average seen from the Core Ultra variant of this system. In Hogwarts Legacy, it was a similar story with 83 frames per second at 4K high on our newer 9800X3D version. That's an increase over the 79 frames per second seen on on the Core Ultra version of this build, and it performs well across the board too in a wide variety of titles. Whether you're looking to play Fortnite at 1080p competitive settings just for the fun of it, pulling in over 420 frames per second on average, or Apex Legends where you're going to be getting around 193 frames on average throughout the game. It's a system that is packed with plenty of power, and the 9800X 3D does make that little bit of difference in this build, especially providing you can find it for MSRP, which is a bit of a challenge right now, will actually cost you less money than the Core Ultra version. Finally, for all you sim racers out there, of which I'm one, I tested out F1 2024 as well. The brand new title pulled in 131 frames per second. That was with DLSS set to quality, frame gen enabled, and ray tracing set to high. All in all then, this is a build that really has plenty of punch, and I'm really glad that I was able to reinvigorate it in this video, because I was really proud of how it turned out. I think it would have been such a waste to not see Lian Li's new RGB goodness in all of its glory, and not to take a look at some high-end motherboards for a change. And I think it's really important that here on the channel, when very occasionally we assemble a build you shouldn't buy, that we take a pause, rectify it, and turn it into something really positive. Thanks for watching, and as always, we'll see you in the next one.